very warm welcome to our esteemed panelists and for being a part of our discussion today on safeguarding trust in today's connected world. We have with us Nagesh Jha, who's the CISO of NSDL, Sumit Chadda, who's the CISO of IMGC Group, and Balram Chaudhary, who's the CISO of ASK Investment Managers. So thank you, gentlemen, for being a part of this. Uh, just wanted to set the context, before we start the discussion. Of course, we've seen in today's hyper-connected world, trust has essentially become the most valuable currency to any organization. We've seen digital ecosystems actually expand across various platforms, whether it be a cloud, mobile, data sharing networks, or even for that matter, AI-driven platforms. We've also seen that, today, uh, the whole art of interconnectedness essentially has unlocked massive opportunities for us from an innovation perspective or building efficiency or a optimization standpoint. But at the same time, while all of this has happened, it's also kind of increased the cyber risk, changed the attack surface, and also, we've seen a lot of unpredictable trajectories come our way from an organization perspective. Uh, in addition to that, we've also seen some very sophisticated attacks where we know that adversaries on the other side may not be humans, but they may be actually routines. Uh, they've also seen a lot of deep fakes to supply chain issues. Insider threats is again a big challenge, and this challenge is only growing over a period of time. And of course, safeguarding from a confidentiality perspective, credibility, and the continuity standpoint again becomes a nightmare for CISOs like yours to make sure that the needle moves ahead of time. With this, my first question is to Nagesh. Nagesh, we've
Yes,
seen that
sure.
digital ecosystems really expand. Industries have become hyper connected. How are you really seeing the threat landscape really evolve, especially when you see adversaries leveraging all of these state of the art, sophisticated attack techniques? And also, what shifts do you think enterprises must make today in their defense posture, to keep ahead of time and keep with pace?
So thank you, Akshay. Thank you for this question. It is very relevant question in today's scenario. So actually, as you have said that earlier we are just focusing on prevention and detection mechanisms. Now we need to focus more on the incident response mechanism because many of things are now not in the everything cannot be stopped at the earlier stage and something may not be stopped, like deep fake. Someone is creating a profile or then they are distributing the video. Then only way is that to have an incident response mechanism in place and then execute that incident response if something goes wrong. So that is very important for the organizations to look into. In addition to that, maintaining the anonymity of the confidential information. Something, if that is anonymous, till the time it is anonymous, it is more secure as compared to if that is in the public domain or something. So, keeping in view of the business requirement, if something if cannot required not to be shared, so those things to be kept as a confidential. That approach is also, I think, that will be useful for many of the organizations. Then reducing the attack surface because now attack are more sophisticated. As I have said that through artificial intelligence and through data which is available at multiple places and the scenarios which are available at all the places, all the attack cannot be stopped if it has already reached to the inside the organization. So maintaining a strong uh, attack, a strong perimeter and reducing the attack surface area to the limited based on need to know basis only the things are open outside. So that is also one area which need to be looked into. Then as because everything starts with the access control and identification of the users and the devices. So if devices and the users, these are the two strong factors. If that is getting controlled properly, if identity access management solutions are implemented, and what are the activity being done by the users, what are the activity being performed on the devices, that is getting properly monitored. And then if we are able to detect the anomalies in that, so that will be very helpful for organizations to safeguard their IT infrastructure and assets. So first is identity and access management. then reducing the attack surface, keeping the things confidential. And last one, if these things are not possible, if incident has happened, then we should have a strong incident response mechanism. So those way, I think we'll be able to safeguard the organizations, and that way, I think the organizations should look into the cyber security.
Sure, sure. Thank you so much, Nagesh. I think very well put across, and the perspectives that you've given is, pretty much thought-provoking, because at the end of the day, there has to be some method to madness. Data is coming our way, which may be highly malicious in nature. Volume also, when it increases, it becomes, a point of issue for the CISOs to kind of see that, is there malicious traffic in the volume, and how does one really pick up the needle from the haystack, right? So thank you so much
Yes.
for that, Nagesh. Fantastic perspective. My next question is to Sumit. Sumit, we've seen that organizations today are rapidly moving in terms of their go-to market. That means they're bringing in a lot of innovation. An idea and the objective is to increase customer satisfaction. Now,
Right.
in this speed to go to market, obviously the CISOs also have to catch up, or the infosec function has to catch up. So how do you uh, bring that blend of creating a balance between speed to market and security, and also at the same time make sure that end trust is maintained at all times?
Yeah, thank you, Akshay. And that's really a practical one, because we as CISOs often come across a situation when the innovation is required to be done. Some project has to be implemented or some digital transformation has to be done, and we come to know of it at the last stage. And then the security gets the backseat and it tends to get compromised. The other thing is, when we focus too much on security, if we are involved upfront or we start working in that direction that we need to have all the guardrails in place, then the innovation slows down. So these two things are very relevant and very interdependent rather on each other. And we often, all I am sure Balram and Nagesh will agree that this usually happens in day-to-day life. So
Right.
taking a learning from these instances in the past, what we have tried to do is that now from we try to implement or take care of security at the very design stage, like at the time of CI/CD only, or at the time of designing the APIs, if we are going for an API integration, or if we are designing a data pipeline, then we think of security at that very stage rather than taking it at the last stage. Because if everything has been done and you are just waiting for security clearance, then definitely it puts a pressure on the CISO that he has to compromise on certain things and give a decision quickly. Otherwise, the innovation will get delayed. So from that perspective, we take an extra step, that we get involved initially. And as we all know about the concept of SecDevOps, so we try to adopt to that methodology of doing the development as compared to DevSecOps. So that's the first aspect. And the second thing is, which I personally try to do in my organization, is that I try to temporalize the things. Like, rather than defining acting as a gatekeeper at the last leg, I try to provide the guardrails within which our teams can function smoothly. So we provide a lot of templates to them, that if you want to have to host a solution on cloud, then you need to follow this template. You just go with it. If these things are compliant, you can quickly and swiftly move on to the cloud, or else you come to us and we'll get involved and then take a decision jointly. So that is the second thing. And third is, we try to adopt a risk-based decisioning approach to all the digital initiatives or the innovations per se in our environment. We try to align our initiative to the risk appetite statement that we have as an organization, and then we decide as to what risk we need to buy, what all we can control, and what are the things which we cannot control in the interest of time. And then we take a sign off from all the stakeholders that this is what we are going ahead with. This is what best we can do at this point in time. And if there are things which can be implemented soon, we'll take care of them in the due course. And for now, we can go ahead with the implementation or innovation. So these are the three broad steps which we personally follow at our end at IMGC, and that's how we go about it.
There is one takeaway that I take from Sumit, your perspective in terms of the three brilliant points that you put on the table. They say that just by having an F1 in your backyard does not make you an Air Force, right?
Right.
So
Wow.
very rightfully put, secure by design, SOP and process-based structure, so that there are no
Yes.
last-minute exigencies or
Surprises.
perspectives,
Yeah.
right? Surprises. And of course, the third point that you mentioned was
Some risk you need to buy. Yeah. Everything
some risk,
cannot be
the sign
mitigated.
off, and that sort of call to take. So I think thank you so much for that. That is a brilliant perspective and a very, very thought provoking. And I'm sure the audience would look at that from a strategy standpoint. The next question is to Balram. Balram, we've seen that AI essentially has become both a weapon and a shield from a cybersecurity perspective. Many organizations talk about whether we are looking at AI in cyber or cyber in AI, right? So, of course, those are two different meanings altogether. But of course, we need to look at a threat intelligence to an automated response standpoint. That's where the AI really comes into play. And also, how do you see AI actually reshaping the overall cyber paradigm, right? From either a defense strategy, whether you go offensive or you do the red teaming, blue teaming, or the purple teaming. And then, of course, how do you actually go about securing the AI systems themselves, right? Uh, Before it actually becomes the next big attack surface.
Good.
Sorry,
Thank
too
you for
many
asking
questions in
this.
one, but
Yes, thank you
yeah.
for asking this question, Akshay, and this is the need of ours because the CISO become culprit as and when people come. Why don't allow the use of ChatGPT, artificial intelligence in the free way? So, however, in cybersecurity, artificial intelligence is fundamentally reshaping cybersecurity defense mechanism nowadays. Earlier it was reactive, now that artificial intelligence help us to be proactive, adaptive and automate something. We can do automations via artificial intelligence for that proactive approach for cybersecurity. It enables system to that analyze large amount of data in real time in cybersecurity also, and this has been used in all kind of security tools, be it individual security tools, be it perimeter security tool, be it cloud security tool, cloud process management tools, etc., and SOC tools. So and even that responding the threat, it's really in real time nowadays that artificial intelligence is helping us. Earlier it was humanly not possible, and they decrease the many false positives. So few of the I can say that reshaping defense by artificial intelligence. So number one would be that enhance the threat detection. So earlier days, I think 5 to 6 years back, we were having signature-based platforms. Either it's a firewall, either it's a IPS, IDS, either it's any kind of security tools and technology. So all were the traditional signature-based. Nowadays, the devices and SOC mechanism comes as a that artificial intelligence based device come which uses that machine learning and which does that behavior analytics to continuously monitor your network traffic, uses behavior analytics, lateral movement, system logs, and detections even for the zero-day kind of attacks if it is available in your environment. Second, they do predictive analytics, proactive defense also. So they, as I told, they analyze historical data also. With the artificial intelligence, we can analyze historical data as well. If there is any emerging trends and threat, and this model also can help to reduce the potential vulnerability and attack scenario. So in preventive measures before attack can happen, they are helping. That artificial intelligence nowadays it is helping. Even so, we will have an environment approved, board approved, and incident response plan written, and how we are going to integrate those incident response plan in the real time scenario with artificial intelligence. So the questions, but it can be reached. We can reduce those incidents response plans, not 100% I can say, but it's 95% can be automated, the incident response plans. And even artificial intelligence also helping in cybersecurity to reduce human errors, if it in case any, improved vulnerability management, improved as you say the blue team, purple team, red team assessments. Also we can automate few of the tools. This is one, and some of the news and nuances is also available in the markets where artificial intelligence is giving the bad impact, like doing that some kind of doing what do you say that right now we have said stating that they create your photo, they created images, they created audio and the fake kind of environment. Those kind of things is also happening, and now the question of ours, how we can have some kind of automated artificial intelligence also. They are available, but nowadays you have to have some kind of physical communications. Physically, you have to reach to various media channel to take down those kind of circuits. So this has not been automated. Hence, I told 90 to 90%, 95% can it be done. So these are the need of the hours for the artificial intelligence, which I can say. Thanks.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Balram. I think very fantastic perspective. And I would again like to use another quote here. And that quote is, handling AI from a cyber perspective was as good as giving a gorilla a root canal. But now the good part is
This
that
can be vice versa.
we've got
Yes.
another gorilla to handle the gorilla which needs a root canal, which means that there are so many AI techniques which have essentially been built in cyber now, right? To kind of actually pick up those early warning systems, also to look at, enabling security from whether it is at the dataset level or an LLM level, or any sort of injections which are essentially coming out of any of those prompts, which may actually get the dataset or the LLM to throw out undesired information, which could lead to a data breach. So with the, of course, the DPDPA rules being, early this month on the 13th of November, I think, from that perspective, it is important to kind of look at these adversaries as well, and how do we kind of build the security from an AI standpoint. So with this, we would let us, take a small pause from our question answers and go to one of my colleague who's going to be presenting on again, a framework driven approach from a cyber perspective, and just to set us a broader context and to bring in a structured view of how organizations today are holistically approaching the challenge. So we'll just move to a short presentation. This will be presented by my colleague Rohit Bharat Das, who's a partner with Grant Thornton Bharat and also a cyber subject matter expert, who will just give his views on why a framework-driven approach is actually becoming critical in managing today's complex and fast-changing cyber threat landscape. So over to you, Rohit, and I look forward to your presentation.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the inaugural of the GT Risk Week. In this session, we will be covering the topic safeguarding trust in today's connected world. We live in a world where digital connections define how we work, live, and interact. Every transaction, every click, every shared piece of data builds or erodes trust. In this hyper-connected environment, trust has become the currency of business and society. Yet, it is constantly under threat from cyber attacks, misinformation, and breaches of privacy. Safeguarding trust is not just about technology or people, process, and values. It is much beyond that. As leaders, we must ask ourselves how we ensure that trust remains in this world completely intact, where the digital and physical are inseparable. This sets the tone for today's session: trust as the foundation, cyber as the enabler, and leadership being the driver. With this, I would also like to focus quite a lot on the trends that we see in today's times, right from the regulatory reforms, regulatory compliances that which is changing at a very rapid pace. There is a very strong push coming from your regulators, including SEBI, RBI, IRDA, DPDPA by DPB, and so on and so forth, which is again getting stringent as we speak. All of us are aware of the AI related risks, which are pertinent and sort of getting more and more sophisticated as we speak. The algorithmic bias, the adversary attacks, and so on and so forth, which is sort of evolving as we speak. The entire country in itself is going through a digital transformation. And I would like to quote our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi. He already talked about the kind of influx that the GDP is going to have with the digital transformation we are going to have by the use of Gen AI, Agentic AI, and other emerging technologies. It is again transforming the kind of risks that we are having. Ransomware attacks, malware attacks, it's only getting sophisticated, more sophisticated as we speak. Brand and reputation risk remains one of the top risks for any organization as we speak. And when it comes to various standards, so organizations are trying to evolve a combination of multiple standards, be it an NIST-based framework, be it an ISO-based framework, or a combination of multiple frameworks, right? So that's another sort of trend that we observe. And the kind of breaches that we see are all very different nowadays. Organizations are becoming far more connected with the other networks, which includes that they are connected with their employees, contractors, beyond employees and contractors, they're connected with their third parties, fourth parties, suppliers, vendors, business partners, and so on and so forth. How are you really controlling your third party risks is again a big question being asked. And as we speak with digital revolution, we are only becoming connected across, even within our homes, within our devices, with our cars, connected cars, and so on and so forth, with IoT and all connected devices coming into effect. How are we really protecting that kind of risks? Right. So these are the trends that we sort of observe. And what kind of impact does it really have? Of course, it is starting with financial losses. It can have direct impact on your P&L, balance sheet, etc. in case of any attack on your key systems like an ERP, HRMS, or anything of that sort. The main impact would be to your brand and reputation. You wouldn't want to be seen in the front page of a newspaper for the wrong reasons, right? The kind of loss that you can cause because of data, which is sort of breached from your organization, is again another kind of loss that you will face. The downtime, the organization downtime, right? In case of you're running your plant machinery, your production is impacted because of cyber breach to your plant, direct impact to your to the operation. Contractual breaches, sometimes it leads to breach to your contract, and eventually it results in legalities, and your both your legals will eventually start discussing with each other in terms of how you sort of address that. Last but not the least, it sort of increases the kind of fatigue in terms of documentations and others from a regulatory landscape, which it can cause. So these kind of business impact is a direct one to any organization for that matter. And what does it really entail is that any organization will need to follow a very methodical or a structural approach to tackling cyber problem. And I would really want to reiterate that cyber is not a IT problem. It is a business imperative, right? It will not only help organizations to sort of comply to a particular mandate or follow a standard, protect their devices, but also it will help them to uh, have a better business proposition, gain better trust amongst their end customers, right? So the entire shift is happening from cyber being just a technology issue to becoming a business enabler for that matter. And what does it really entail? Is to have a top-down approach by applying a right framework. And there are various standards which drive these frameworks. It could be an ISO, it could be an NIST, it could be a SOC 2, it could be a COSO, it could be COBIT, or for that matter, any regulatory mandate which is directly impacting the sector the organization is into. If you are an organization, you are you are a financial services organization for that matter. Let's say you are an NBFC, you would have an RBI mandate, you have an NHB mandate, or for that matter, sometimes if you're an intermediary, you may have a SEBI mandate. So whichever regulation is directly applicable to you is something that you would eventually want that to be applied to your framework as your one of the key elements which will define your governance layer. Your framework would be essentially divided into three segments. If I were to sort of visualize this for all of us, first would be your strategic and the governance layer, which will eventually have your cyber priorities, your objectives directly linked to your business objectives, which will be tightly linked to your regulatory landscape. The next layer would be your tactical layer, which will further drill down your cyber narratives into specific tactical programs that you would want to arrive or drive as a initiative. And further to your tactical layer will be the operational layer, which will eventually drill down to each and every control layer. For example, your risk and control matrices to your each and every area which needs to be implemented, which needs to be practiced for that matter. That forms your operational layer. And the three-layered approach eventually will need to be giving the complete visibility by applying a training and awareness sort of a campaign across the organization, and also a reporting aspect which gives a view of an endpoint right till the board member, right? So that kind of a framework is what we are really talking about. This framework will envisage your customer problem, your client problem, your business partner problem, your employee problem, all of that together to ensure that it gets the complete organization all the time monitoring their the infrastructure, application systems, and for that matter, the people side of it. Some of the key strategic things that organizations will need to drive in the current times. Of course, there are various initiatives that one need to be looking at, but one of the foremost aspect is to look at cyber, as I mentioned, more of a business imperative, more of a business issue, and we need to have sort of a top-down approach, right by getting the buy-in from our board members, the organization board members, or the senior management or the senior leadership for that matter, with the right investments and with the right intent and also the right kind of direction and a vision, right, for that matter. Second aspect needs to be looked at from the themes that one needs to drive, right? One of the core areas which will gain prominence in the coming times will be predominantly on data privacy and data protection, especially because India is catching up with the DPDPA norm, right? It's been around the corner for quite amount of time, and organizations are already preparing with a lot of gap assessments and other preparatory mechanisms. But now is the time when the rule clarifications, once it sort of comes out, all the organizations in this entire in India who are data fiduciaries will need to sort of act upon it and will need to sort of drive that initiative as one of their key initiatives. Second one is going to be the usage of AI, right? Every organization today, any tech-driven organization, and I must say every organization for that matter, do use AI in some form or the other. How are you ensuring that you are applying the right AI governance within the organization? Are you following a framework? Are you aligned to any of the leading standards like an ISO 42001 or NIST risk management AI framework for that matter, or any other mechanisms for that matter, right? So I think that's another strategic theme that needs to be looked at. Second is, the third aspect is to focus on how, as an organization, are you really aware of your crown jewels, right? While we have identified your critical assets, your infrastructure, your key applications, your systems, your people, your processes, etc. but have you really done an assessment to know where you stand vis-a-vis God forbid, a incident or a scenario, right? A crown jewel assessment is something that every organization will need to really do. And if not done through a structured mechanism, please, I think it will be a recommendatory aspect to really look at that theme as one of the themes to really look into. And last but not the least is to ensure that we are continuously monitoring your crown jewels, your assets, your key critical assets, and so on and so forth, so that you have a clear visibility on where the organization is currently in terms of the cyber risks and threats which are currently there and open. And at the same time, God forbid any scenario happens, how are you really tackling your incidents? Do you have a very clear cut incident response plan? Have you tested your incident response plan? Have you simulated any of the incidents? For example, have you really plugged in or injected any ransomware or a malware which is probably in a limited environment, so that you know your preparedness, your responses? Does it release any alerts to your security operations center, and so on and so forth, right? So these are the core questions that one should be really asking. So we just sort of highlighting some of the key themes. And with that, I will probably wind up my session. I'll put this back to the moderator for dwelling into more details on the topic. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you, Rohit. I think those insights were extremely excellent, and that was truly very comprehensive. I think very pertinent points that you've touched. Some very relevant, in terms of evolution of threat actors, interplay between AI and cyber, the need to move from compliance to continuous assurance, and of course, how frameworks today are helping CISOs from an enterprise standpoint to kind of bring the structure and consistency from a cyber posture standpoint. So, just building on to, the conversation that Rohit actually made, my question to Nagesh is that, we actually often see people are both the strongest and the weakest link in the entire security chain. Nagesh, how are organizations really rethinking about awareness, accountability, empowerment to really make every employee a stakeholder in trust and cyber resilience?
Yes, so actually, as you have rightly said, these things are already in place through policies, but actual practice, it may not be, and somewhere it may be missing. So I think simulation-based approach to train the employee and train the users, that is very important. And then giving a scenario to them, and then identifying their weakness, and then suggesting them the way to overcome that weakness. That approach, if we follow, that will be more effective. So giving a challenge, then identifying that they were not, means they have failed in their challenge, then training them, giving a training them that they should not fail in the next time, in the next test. So I think that approach will be very helpful, or related to the policy implementation, related to the standard operating procedure implementation. I think that approach we are following, and I think that approach is very successful, because we see that if first element, human element or people element, if that is properly getting controlled, the rest of the things and the culture will be built in such a way that the rest of the things will be able to sustain successfully as it is desired. Because as we have talked about so much about artificial intelligence, people behind and the people who are using that artificial intelligence tool, if those people are also trained enough to understand the risk associated with it and how it should be used and how it should not be used, if those things they are aware, then they will be able to use into more better way, and the risk will be better managed. So I think people element is very important. 80% problem can be solved if people are good trained and they have gone through the simulation exercise and they have gone through the actual scenario where they will fail and they have to be resilient to that failure. I think that will make the organizations more stronger and more. Uh, so here the role of CISO and working with CHRO and making the things coherent in such a way that the digital infrastructure of the company is strengthened enough, and CHRO and the CISO are both are having a calm and peaceful life, is possible if people are getting properly trained through these simulated exercises. So
I
that is
think
my
very
take
well
on
put up.
this.
Absolutely. That calm and peaceful was something that, we'd love to hear. All of us as professionals, uh, but I don't know. Sometimes they say chaos is good because that helps you stay ahead of time. But how much of chaos is really good is also a big question. So, but
Yes,
of
if
course,
some change is for good, that is good. Actually, if something is bringing more business or more relevance or operational efficiency, for that, if some kiosk is created or something is getting more, means then it is more better. So if we are creating a challenge, that is also in form of kiosk, and then making them to understand that how to be resilient, how to fight the situation if actual scenario is coming. So these tabletop exercise and simulated exercise or targeting the users and then making them understand that you are targeted and you have failed and you are successful, appreciating their success and also training them for their failure. So that is the way I think we may become more and more stronger. And now AI tool and everything is also available. So we can use that tool and technologies. And based on that, we can create multiple scenarios and that need to be tested regularly. That will be helpful for the organizations
absolutely,
and the companies.
absolutely. And another statement here from my side, and all the panelists will say that Akshay is too much into proverbs, but they always say, right, that rough seas make good sailors. And hence, you have to, the training also has to be in the middle of the sea and not in the swimming pool, right? So
Yes.
likewise, you need to create awareness within the organization, whether right from the board level to the users, to the power users and the CXOs as well, right? And at today's time, a lot of simulation exercises, spearfishing exercises, covert operations, all of that essentially is taken a lot of precedence, board awareness levels or trainings to the board, simulations at the CXO levels, and how they react to those simulations. All of those essentially is very important. So thank you so much again, once again, Nagesh. Really appreciate that. Uh, Sumit, my next question is to you. With supply chain, fintechs, and API-driven ecosystems now actually deeply integrated into various business models, right? Third-party risk has actually become a first-party exposure, right? So, how are you really
Correct.
enhancing the visibility and assurance across, your extended enterprise to safeguard the interconnected trust today?
Sure. Okay, Akshay. So, first of all, before I come on to the points which we should take to safeguard this, I would like to say one thing, that third party risk has not become a vendor risk. It has actually become a business continuity problem, because a lot of organizations rely on third parties nowadays. It is practically impossible for you to operate in an interconnected environment with no third parties involved. So every organization is dependent on third parties nowadays. And your biggest, or I'll say your weak partner who's not there in terms of security, that partner becomes your biggest exposure to risk. So we at our end are taking 3-4 steps in order to mitigate this risk, primarily because more so rather because RBI is also going very stringent on third party risk assessment. They are coming up with a lot of circulars and master direction nowadays on third party risks, and every circular practically covers third party risk as a major risk or one of the major risk items. So the first thing which we do is we try to do a continuous evaluation of partner rather than doing it as a one time exercise. Usually a couple of years back, we used to do it as a one-time exercise once a year. We used to go to the partner, critical partners we used to visit, and the non-critical partners who are just, we are with whom we are just sharing some non-personal data, not we are not sharing
Need to
PI
add a
data, but
little bit of the new
uh,
rule.
yeah. So uh, we do a lot of continuous vendor monitoring through assurance products, and Uh, the other aspect is that whenever we do an API integration with a third-party vendor, we try to do it in a through a sandbox environment only. We apply encryption, authentication. So all those security controls are there. We don't take any call or any compromise on any of such features at the time of implementation. The third thing is we uh, to contractually bind the partner with the clauses which we are bound by. So there are a lot of right to audits which are incorporated. There is confidentiality clauses, the right to audit clause, and right to inform us in case there is a breach at their end, or maybe sharing of logs, maintaining RPOs and RTOs. So there are a lot of clauses which go into at the time of contracting with the partner. And we do a risk based assessment. Again, we classify our vendors into A plus, A, B, C category. We do a risk based assessment of these vendors. We do a rigorous assessment of partners who are categorized A plus or A based on our interactions with them, based on our dependency with them. And where we have a low risk with a partner in terms of data which we are sharing, the criticality of the data we are sharing, we take a risk based approach. We do half yearly or quarterly assessment, and then we will done with it. So these are the 4 5 steps which we take care of uh, at our end in order to mitigate the third parties in an interconnected world.
Thank you. Thank you so much, and really appreciate, because you put the, you actually gave it a complete defense in depth approach, from actually looking at breach response, breach notification, to SLA driven approach, from also looking at perspectives around data confidentiality, data handling, and so on and so forth. Because at the end of the day, uh, you know, as a principal, you have the obligations to your stakeholders, which could be even external customers, and so on and so forth,
Correct.
right? So
Yeah.
that is extremely important. My next question is to Balram. Balram, in today's world, we've actually seen breaches are often a question of when and not if, right? Every organization is susceptible to an attack to whatever extent. The number of controls that you apply may be directly proportional to the time the breach will happen, right? But the breach, as they say, may be inevitable, right? So, how are you really redefining the incident response and the modern SOC operations, from proactive threat hunting to, say, resilient recovery, also to ensure continuity and make sure that there is enough learning into the system so that reoccurrence of similar issues are avoided.
Okay, good. So, modern security operations. So, what all things will come in modern security operations, which we are talking about, how we can give the incident response plan. So there are two different stuff. One is technical in nature, another is, how you have driven and how your executive is aware about your incident response plan, how you have aligned, and which all service provider is going to give you the help in case any breach is happening in the organization. So, which we have done it. So, in modern security operations centers, they are still going in the transforming mode. They are in transforming. If you see that earlier SOC in which I used in 2010 in the company, and nowadays the SOC. Earlier only the log correlations was happening. Nowadays the SOC provide you next generation's SIM, they provide you user entity behavior analytics, they provide you so kind of environment where you can orchestrate and create your playbook on the basis of alert which being generated and which you think that can be that threat for your organization. So these are the things. Earlier it was only the detections mode. Nowadays the modern security operation center is giving that proactive approach as well. So in proactive approach, few of the proactives will say the number one, that the proactive threat hunting. Earlier days there was no proactive threat hunting. Nowadays the proactive threat hunting is taking place, where then alert trigger investigations will happen. Which was happening, manually earlier days, that security analyst has to do the manually investigation, what it is, and they are the time consuming. Nowadays, you can have threat analytics in a minutes, and even your security analyst, which is physically they are working on, and they can go and work on that actual high level of threat, and they can give some detection mechanism as well. So second is integrations with artificial intelligence and machine learning is a fundamental to this modern SOC operation center in real time to identify some kind of near-ever anomaly and patterns, the new patterns in your security operations center. They predict, they predict as well the what kind of potential threat is going to take place in real time as well as proactively as well nowadays to SOC which provide. We can automate your security operations centers where we can create multiple playbooks as per your threat occurs in your organizations. And also we can do some kind of behavior analytics for your individual, for the customers. Earlier days, that if I am the laptop owners and laptop owners as A and B is coming and typing at your laptop, nowadays that artificial intelligence and modern SOC is going to catch. It's not Akshay, it's not Balram, but it's Akshay is typing on the machine. So nowadays the next generation SOC is going to provide you this kind of efficacy aspects. And even nowadays, not on the organizations, regulator also coming in the big way where they are asking you many questions, even what you have to do in your SOC, and they are asking to solve SOC efficacy reports kind of environments, and you have to sign and get this signed by your managing director and the organization, and then send it back to them. So these kind of things is happening, and SOC is really modernizing, and really things is happening in a good way. So as I told you earlier also, modern SOC, but with artificial intelligence, but human is needed still. They cannot go alone. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. I think it was very well said. And the right combination of the tools, techniques, and human intervention is the way to go. And I still remember somebody had told me this, that there is one SOC in Europe which is completely unmanned in the graveyard shift. And still, the processes are operating so fine that, the interception of, first of all, the qualification of events as incidents, and then, raising the tickets to the parity, and then after which going ahead and getting the, action done on it, whether it needs a blocking or it needs a further investigation, and raising all of that to I think it's brilliant, right? And we also want to see those days here where
but everywhere, Akshay, everywhere it cannot go hand in hand nowadays, because if you automate 100% SOC as well, let us assume that you have a Windows machine somewhere your core platform is running and there is some kind of patch which needs to be deployed, and automations cannot be 100%. If you are going to put, then your application will stop working. So there are means, and in the Indian context, still some of the manual intervention is needed.
I totally agree, sir. And in fact, I'll contradict myself here with another statement which says that, when we talk about diversity and inclusion sort of a perspective, we a lot of SOCs are, hiring professionals who are, who have a special ability through hearing aids, etc., are extremely good eyes on glass. They're extremely good, but the concentration levels are very high. And I think we should give that equal opportunity to all of us here. So
you will not give regulator is asking you none, you have to provide them.
right.
Yeah.
So
The
that's
recent
why
act came, I think, 1 year back. Yeah, we have to implement. Yes.
correct. So absolutely right. And with that, I'd like to end the session and just another 30 seconds more. As we conclude this session, I think one thing is very clear. Trust is no longer a byproduct of security, but it is actually the foundation of every interaction. And Sumit, you mentioned about that perspective. If you see in any ecosystem where threats evolve as fast as innovation, or maybe even faster than innovation today, organizations must embed security. So that's a key takeaway that we've taken out of this discussion. Of course, when you talk about the future, the agility is only going to increase as time progresses. We are talking about quantum computing and other technologies coming into play. So from that perspective, customer protection in terms of the attack surface is only going to grow. So so it is important that you know there is a hand in glove and a right balance from a security perspective, and there is enough time given for security compliance as well, from a go-to-market. And then last but not the least, if you look at safeguarding trust, it's actually not only a destination, but it's a continuous commitment, right? So with that, I would like to thank all three of you to kind of share your valuable insights with us, and also kind of give your valuable time to kind of be a part of this discussion.